Part 1. They say the beginning of the end never looks like the end. It looks like Tuesday nights and shared meals and habitual "I love yous" that roll off the tongue more out of muscle memory than conviction. It looked like us, Mark and Emma. Married 9 years. Living in a brick colonial on a quiet street with the kind of cracked sidewalks that whispered stability. 2 dogs, no kids yet. But plans, always plans. If you asked me 6 months ago, I'd have told you we were happy. The first crack was small. Like a hairline fracture in a glass you think is fine until the whole thing shatters in your hand. It started with Emma's new job. New boss. New work events. I'd come home to find her missing, a post-it slapped on the fridge with a casual, "Late tonight. Love you." Her perfume would linger in the hallway, heavy and exotic, not the light lavender scent I bought her last Christmas. "Just busy," she'd say, brushing me off with a kiss that barely grazed my cheek. Deadlines are brutal. I wanted to believe her. God, I needed to believe her. The human brain is an expert in rationalization. It's not a skill you consciously develop. It's a survival mechanism. I told myself the overtime was for us. For the vacations we talked about but never took. For the home renovation projects we kept planning but never started. One Friday night, she came home so late the moon was already giving up on the night sky. I was on the couch, pretending to watch some mindless rerun, heart hammering every time headlights flashed past the window. "Car broke down," she said, tossing her keys on the counter with a clatter that made me flinch. "Had to get a tow." Her hands trembled slightly as she unzipped her boots. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine. Tired." She went straight to the shower. I stayed sitting there, staring at the front door like it might still swing open and reveal the real Emma, the one who used to call me laughing from the driveway to help carry and take out. Small things started stacking up like bodies in a forgotten war. An Uber receipt for a drop-off address I'd never heard of. A second phone charger tucked under the passenger seat of her car. A strange text that flashed on her phone one evening when she asked me to find a recipe for her. Just a glimpse before the screen dimmed. Asterisk, "Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you." "Who's that?" I asked casually, handing the phone back like it burned me. She barely looked at it. "Oh, just Laura. From work. She's dating this guy. It's a whole thing." She was good. Too good. The kind of casual dismissiveness that only comes with practice. And still, I doubted myself. Maybe it was Laura. Maybe I was being paranoid. One Saturday morning, while she slept in, so deeply I wondered if she was drugging herself to escape, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at a coffee cup, watching the steam twist into shapes. I tried to catalog every change, every cold shoulder, every missing puzzle piece. That's when I found it. A credit card charge from a boutique hotel downtown. A place known for privacy packages and romantic escapes. I remembered that night. She told me she was working late. Something dark coiled inside me, low and slow burning. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I tucked it away like a weapon I wasn't ready to draw. Instead, I started watching more carefully, listening between the words she said, counting the minutes she was stuck in traffic, noticing how she angled her phone screen away from me. The worst part? She was still kind. Still wore my sweatshirt on Sundays. Still laughed at my stupid jokes when she bothered to be around. It wasn't cruelty. It was indifference. The slow, surgical extraction of her heart from our life together. And it made me feel insane. Because how do you grieve something that's not officially dead yet? Late one night, after she had fallen asleep, early, I sat outside on the porch with a beer, feeling the cold sink into my bones. The stars overhead looked fake, like props on a stage set. My world was starting to tilt, and the only thing keeping me upright was the stubborn refusal to admit the obvious. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. By the third night, I knew. It wasn't just a feeling. It was certainty. I couldn't prove it, not yet, but I knew, the way you know when a storm is coming even before the first drop of rain hits the ground. Something had broken. And the thing about broken glass is, once the cracks start spreading, they never stop. Part 2. They say you can't unsee a truth once it cracks through the surface. No matter how much you squint, how hard you rub your eyes, the illusion is gone. After that third sleepless night, I started noticing everything. It wasn't just the late nights or the hidden text anymore. It was the way Emma flinched when I brushed her hand at dinner. The way she over-explained simple things, like why she had to work late, again, or why her phone always seemed to die just as she left the office. Tiny, insignificant things on their own. But stitched together, they wove a suffocating pattern. On Tuesday, she said she had a staff meeting until 9. I offered to pick her up, to grab a late coffee after. She hesitated, laughed awkwardly. Oh, no, no. It's easier if I just Uber home. Parking's a nightmare. You know that. Sure, I thought. I knew that. I knew a lot of things now. She got home at 10:15. She smelled different. Not like her work perfume, the one I knew, loved, bought for her birthday. This was something musky, heavier, not hers. And there, almost laughably small, was a smear of dark lipstick just below her ear. Emma never wore lipstick to work. She hated it. Said it made her feel like a wax figure. I said nothing. Just smiled. Kissed her forehead. Memorized the smell. The next morning, while she showered, I went through her purse. I didn't even feel guilty anymore. That part of me, the trusting husband, was already dead. Buried between her wallet and a crushed receipt was a second phone. It was sleek, newer than the one she carried around the house. No password. Maybe she thought I'd never find it. My hand shook slightly as I scrolled through the screen. New number, no name attached. Messages from a contact saved only as J. Nothing explicit, no declarations of love, no filthy exchanges, but the intimacy was obvious. Thinking about you all morning. Last night was something else. Can't stop smiling. Hope you feel the same. A picture flashed open, a blurry selfie of a man's hand resting lightly on Emma's knee. No face. No context. But no need for it. My blood roared in my ears. When she came out of the shower, towel wrapped around her body, I pretended nothing was wrong. Later that evening, I casually mentioned the boutique hotel charge. Slipped it into conversation like a man laying down a single card in a game he knows he's already lost. Her eyes widened for a fraction of a second. If I hadn't been watching, I would have missed it. Oh, that, she said, laughing too brightly. That was a mistake. Laura booked a room for a work event, and somehow it ended up on my card. We sorted it out. Her tone was light, dismissive, but her fingers fidgeted with her wine glass, spinning it slowly. Sounds complicated, I said. She shrugged. You know how billing departments are. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded and sipped my beer. By Friday, I started timing her. Tracking her. Uber trips that ended 3 blocks from our house. 30-minute windows unaccounted for. Excuses that didn't even bother to line up anymore. One afternoon, she came home flushed, her hair messier than usual. A faint red mark bloomed just below her collarbone, barely hidden by the neckline of her blouse. Got caught in the rain, she said, laughing and brushing past me. There hadn't been rain for 3 days. Small things. Stupid things. But all adding up to a mountain of lies. Saturday morning, while she went on her yoga retreat, I drove downtown to the boutique hotel. It wasn't hard to charm the woman at the front desk. Flash a smile, mention a surprise anniversary gift, and suddenly you have all the booking info you need. Emma had checked in twice in the past 2 months. Always the same suite. Always booked in cash under her maiden name. No receipts emailed. No traces. She knew how to hide things. Too well. That night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling fan spinning in lazy circles. Her breathing was soft, even. She looked peaceful, beautiful, even now. And it made my skin crawl. I remembered a night years ago, early in our marriage, when she cried in my arms over some forgotten argument. I'd felt like the safest place in her world then. Now, she was safest when she was lying to me. I thought about the lipstick, the second phone, the bruises blooming on her skin like secrets. And the picture, the hand on her knee, so casually, so possessively. She wasn't just slipping away. She had already left. The realization hit me with a weight that crushed my lungs. I was living with a ghost. A woman who smiled at me in the morning and kissed me goodbye, while her heart, her body, belonged to someone else. I turned my head, watching her silhouette in the dark. I thought I knew dread before. I hadn't. It wasn't fear of losing her that kept me awake now. It was the gnawing certainty that whatever was happening beneath the surface was so much worse than I dared to imagine. Part 3. It started on a Sunday morning, deceptively calm, with the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen and the muted hum of Emma singing to herself. I sat at the dining table, my phone in hand, the clone backup of her second device glowing like a loaded gun. I should have waited, should have turned away. But when you know the walls of your life are about to collapse, you stop looking for exits. You brace for impact. The first folder opened without hesitation, almost eager to destroy me. Photos. Hundreds of them. Emma in hotel rooms, lounging on unfamiliar beds, champagne flutes in hand, laughing up at someone behind the camera. Her hand on a man's chest, his hand low on her waist. No faces visible, But the intimacy needed no translation. Then the messages. Thousands. I miss waking up next to you. I can't believe I'm still pretending with him. Mark is too trusting. He has no clue. Soon, babe. Once the account hits the number we need, I'm out. The account. I found it buried in another folder, screenshots of bank transfers. Small enough to stay hidden. Regular enough to be deliberate. Slowly bleeding our joint accounts dry. Every paycheck, every deposit, every bonus I celebrated with her. She had been pocketing pieces of it away for their future. A future without me. I scrolled further. Plans for an apartment across town. Leases half completed, contracts signed. Weekend getaways. A set of flight confirmations to places we had once dreamed of visiting together. I set the phone down with a calmness that felt inhuman. Across the room, Emma glanced at me, smiling easily, sipping from her coffee mug, the one I bought her 2 Christmases ago. Everything okay, love? She asked. Yeah, I said. Just tired. And in that moment, I realized something broke so cleanly inside me it made no noise. I spent the rest of the morning moving through the motions. Making breakfast. Talking about the errands we needed to run. Laughing, even. I could see her studying me sometimes, as if checking whether the mask was slipping. But I had learned from the best. While she went shopping, I took the real steps. I drove 2 towns over to a law office tucked between a bail bondsman and a closed diner. The lawyer, recommended by a friend who had survived his own bloody divorce, didn't waste time. I laid everything out. The photos, the messages, the hidden money, the betrayal mapped out in high definition. He smiled grimly. You have enough to bury her. Financially, legally, socially. If you want, we can make sure she walks away with nothing. I want it. We built the plan carefully. Document everything. Quietly secure assets. Monitor communications without tipping her off. When the time was right, file for divorce with an overwhelming packet of evidence. Deliver it in a way that left no room for negotiation. No screaming matches. No second chances. No emotional outbursts. Just destruction by silence. I moved quickly after that. Shifted half of our liquid assets into an account under my sole name. Changed passwords. Photographed everything of value in the house. Collected receipts, documents, proof of ownership. Emma remained oblivious. That evening, she came home beaming, swinging shopping bags, talking about a movie she wanted us to see next weekend. Future plans. Shared calendars. Lies piled on top of lies. Maybe we could even take that trip to Aspen, she said, voice light, teasing. I smiled. Yeah, maybe. I watched her chatter, wondering how I had missed it for so long. How I could have laid beside her every night, kissed her goodbye every morning, and never noticed the rot setting into the foundations of our life. She was good. I had to give her that. But I was better now. That night, while she slept peacefully beside me, I finalized the preparations. Copies of everything stored off-site. Contacts ready. The lawyer on standby. Emma thought she had me wrapped around her finger. She thought she'd waltz out of my life with half my world and fall into her lover's arms without consequence. She was wrong. There would be no warning. No hint that the ground was about to vanish under her feet. The man she betrayed, the man who would have forgiven anything once, was dead. What remained was a patient, calculating stranger. A man who had already started dismantling the dream she thought she had secured. And soon, very soon, she'd realize the full weight of what she destroyed. Not with a shout, not with a bang, but with the cold, quiet certainty of a man who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain by watching her fall. Part 4. By the time February rolled around, the noose was almost finished tightening around Emma's neck. Every day, I moved in silence, smiling when I needed to, laughing when appropriate, kissing her goodnight without the slightest flicker of rage behind my eyes. Inside, I was counting down. I had everything. Photos, texts, bank records, proof of the hidden account, witness statements from the private investigator I hired, even a recording of her lover drunkenly bragging at a bar about how easy it was to fool me. But then, something new surfaced, something that made all the betrayal before it seem almost quaint. While combing through the financial records with my attorney, we uncovered a series of credit cards opened in my name. Cards I had never signed for. Debt I had never approved. Tens of thousands of dollars. Maxed out. Jewelry, luxury hotel stays, weekend getaways, all hidden under addresses I didn't recognize. Emma hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. She had committed identity fraud. She was stealing from me to finance their affair. When I confronted my attorney with the evidence, he grinned like a man handed a loaded gun. "This isn't just divorce," he said. "This is criminal. Felony level. We can press charges. She won't just lose the house, Mark. She might lose her freedom." I nodded once. Slowly. The decision was already made before he finished speaking. We laid the final traps carefully. Quietly. I filed the divorce papers first, citing adultery and financial misconduct. Filed the fraud charges second, through a separate attorney to keep it clean. Subpoenaed the banks. Froze the stolen accounts. The court date was set for 3 weeks later. Emma had no idea. She went about her days oblivious, planning her exit from a marriage she thought she still controlled. She smiled, talked about summer trips, joked about needing a new car soon. The performance was almost admirable. If only I wasn't the one writing the final act. The public exposure came on a Thursday. It was a company event at her firm, a mid-year awards night she had spent weeks preparing for, thinking it would be the perfect last hurrah before slipping away with her new life. I attended, of course, smiling, wearing the suit she loved. The venue buzzed with polite conversation and cheap champagne. Emma flitted from table to table, laughing, touching arms, tossing her hair the way she did when she wanted to be noticed. She kissed me lightly on the cheek in front of her coworkers. Played the doting wife. It made me sick. At exactly 8:15 p.m., as the speeches were starting, a courier walked into the banquet hall carrying a thick envelope. He handed it directly to Emma. Cameras flashed. People murmured. Emma laughed it off, tearing it open with a flourish. And then her face went white. Inside were copies of the divorce filings, the fraud charges, evidence packets, summonses, everything neatly organized, undeniable. In front of her boss, her coworkers, her friends. For a moment, the room froze. Then the whispers started. Emma dropped the envelope, her hands trembling, her mouth opening and closing without sound. She bent to pick up the papers, but they spilled across the floor, exposing everything: the affair, the theft, the deception. I watched her crumble, standing tall and calm at the back of the room, sipping my drink. She tried to flee, but her boss blocked her path, demanding explanations. The HR director hovered nearby, already texting furiously. Her lover, who had slipped into the back unnoticed, turned and bolted the moment he realized what was happening, leaving her standing there alone under the glare of dozens of eyes. No allies. No escape. Only consequences. I turned and left before the real screaming started, stepping out into the cold night air with a satisfaction so deep it almost felt like peace. The divorce would go through quickly. The fraud charges would stick. Her professional reputation was already in ruins. She would lose her job, her apartment, her savings, all gone in a tidal wave she never saw coming. And me? I didn't just survive. I rose. Not as the broken man she thought she could destroy, but as something stronger, colder, unbreakable. The past was ash. The future was mine to build. And Emma? She would spend years crawling through the ruins of the life she tried to steal, wondering how she ever thought she could outplay me. Part 5. Life after destruction wasn't a fresh sunrise. It wasn't peaceful music and quiet mornings filled with gratitude. It was war. A different kind of war. One fought in the silence of empty rooms and echoing memories. The first weeks after the divorce were mechanical. Wake up. Breathe. Move. Repeat. Every step forward felt like dragging broken bones across concrete. The house was mine, but it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a museum filled with artifacts from a dead life. Her perfume still clung faintly to the curtains. A few stray hairs curled in the corners of the bathroom sink. Her fingerprints were ghosts on the refrigerator door. I gutted it. Everything she had touched, I stripped out. New sheets. New dishes. New locks. I repainted the bedroom walls until I couldn't smell her anymore. But scars aren't just on surfaces. They live under your skin. Some nights, I woke up gasping, reaching for a woman who wasn't there anymore. Other nights, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long I had lived blind. But slowly, something inside me began to shift. Not heal. Not yet. Just harden. I became sharper, colder, more deliberate. Work was my sanctuary. I built my business bigger, faster, stronger than ever before. The long hours, the deals, the cold clarity of numbers, they didn't lie to me the way people did. It was around that time Emma tried to come back. A letter, handwritten, trembling with desperation, delivered by hand, shoved under my door like a final act of cowardice. She poured her soul into the pages, or what was left of it. Apologies, excuses, self-pity wrapped in hollow words. I lost myself. We were meant to be. Maybe we can find our way back. I didn't even make it halfway through. The words tasted like ashes. I tossed the letter into the fireplace and watched it burn without blinking. Watched every "I'm sorry" curl and blacken into nothing. She wasn't reaching out for me. She was reaching for the life she lost. The stability, the safety, the version of herself she thought she could always manipulate. But that man was gone. Then came the final twist of the knife, and it came from someone I never expected. Daniel. My brother. My blood. The one who stood beside me during the divorce. The one who poured drinks for me on the worst nights and told me it wasn't my fault. The one I trusted more than anyone left standing. It slipped out one night at a mutual friend's barbecue. Too many beers. Too many loose tongues. Man, Dan said he saw her once. A friend said, laughing awkwardly. You know, before you knew. At that hotel downtown. The world went quiet around me. Later, I cornered Daniel. Asked him straight. No anger. Just a question hanging between us like a guillotine blade. And he cracked. Admitted it. He had seen her. Knew what she was doing. And chose to stay silent. I didn't want to hurt you, he said. I thought you'd be better off not knowing. The betrayal was a different flavor this time. Not passionate. Not violent. Just cold. I didn't scream. Didn't throw a punch. I shook his hand, nodded once, and walked away, cutting him out as cleanly as a surgeon slicing away dead flesh. Family wasn't blood anymore. It was loyalty. And Daniel had shown where his loyalty truly lived. The circle grew smaller. Tighter. More precise. The weak fell away. The liars fell away. The traitors revealed themselves. And what remained was only strength. One night, months later, I stood on my front porch, a glass of whiskey in hand, watching the sun set. The sky was burning orange and black, the air crisp and clean. I thought about everything I had lost, everything I had survived, everything I had rebuilt. No fairy tale, no romantic comebacks, no golden victories, just hard-earned peace. The kind that only comes when you tear yourself down to the bones and rebuild from the foundation up. I wasn't the man Emma destroyed. I wasn't even the man Daniel betrayed. I was someone new, someone forged in the fire of everything they tried to break. I was not just a survivor. I was reborn, stronger, colder, wiser, unbreakable. They built the fire to destroy me. Instead, they burned away the weakness. And all that was left was a man they could never touch again. The end.